Welcome to the Wellness Project, where real conversations meet mental wellness. I'm Wilson, your host, here to explore the highs, the lows, and everything in between when it comes to personal growth, resiliency, and well-being. This podcast is all about breaking the stigma, sharing insights, and giving you practical tools to navigate life with more clarity and confidence. No fluff, no cliches, just honest, meaningful discussions that matter. So, wherever you are, take a breath, get comfortable, and let's dive in. Welcome to the Wellness Project. So I guess the first question I'd ask is, why did you decide to become a school psychologist?
So I was a teacher before I went into the world of school psychology. I taught for 11 years.
Like primary?
Middle school.
Oh,
I
boy.
taught 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade.
Yeah.
All the grades.
Yeah.
And then I started going through some changes myself and was having some mental health concerns. And so decided that I needed to go into something more where I can help people who might feel the way that I feel.
Oh, yeah.
And so that is why I really went into school psychology, and I still get to work with kids, and I wanted something that was still in education.
Yeah.
I didn't want to give up my retirement and all that good fun stuff. But
Well, just, still being in the helping profession, particularly in the school districts, right?
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah. So did you have your bachelor's in education then?
Yes. I have a bachelor's in education, a master's in education,
Okay.
and
Then you went.
got a second master's in school psychology.
Yeah.
Yes.
What was like the internship experience like?
So am I allowed to name drop?
You can, sure.
I went to University of Toledo.
Nice.
And they are very hands-on from the start.
Mhm.
So your first year, you are in a school full-time. In
Oh, wow.
addition, well, sort of full-time, in addition to your coursework. So I had to quit my job and go do this program.
Yeah.
And so you're in the classrooms, you're doing a lot of observations and stuff your first year of different grade levels. You have this synopsis of things that you have to see, kindergarten through or pre-K really through high school. I was able to forgo some of those because I already taught and I knew what that was like. So I kind of skipped the middle school observations. And then year 2, you are in a different school and you are really more hands-on. You're observing the testing, you're observing the school psych that you're working with in their world, and you're helping write reports. You're doing a lot of record reviews, a lot of behavior assessments, just with the supervision of the psych that you're with.
Gotcha.
Then your internship year is your 3rd year. It's full-time. Ohio is one of the only states that pays their interns, which is really nice.
That is nice.
Yes. So during that year, the first couple of weeks, you're kind of getting the hang of what the school district looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You observe your mentor or supervisor doing some testing, writing reports. You get through, whatever processes the school uses to load the material, and then you're kind of on your own.
Yeah.
So you kind of split the caseload, and you have the supervisor there to help support.
Yeah.
But then you're writing the reports, and then they look them over and
sign off on them in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there like an exam that you had to take at the end?
There is, yes. For Ohio, it's the praxis.
Okay.
So that and they're getting rid of the praxis for everything else. It's now Ohio Assessment for Educators, so the OAEs.
Oh yeah. Okay.
For the teachers now, but school psychs right now are still under the praxis. So
what sort of changes have you seen in the field of school psychology?
Well, if I think back to as a teacher, I didn't even know what a school psych was when I first started teaching. It's just they were kind of like a test in place situation, and you didn't really see them. They were housed in the board office. They're kind of
hands off, in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you don't even really know who's going with whom and when and where. And I never got an email from anybody saying they're taking this kid from my class to test or anything like that. So I have no idea when those things happened.
Yeah.
Now that I'm in that world, I email the teachers and I'm like, I'm going to pull your kid and this is what I'm going to do. And this is when I'm going to have him. So I see that. But now there is more of a focus on mental health as well. So when you're doing your coursework, there's a lot of counseling as a school psychologist classes that you take, and consultation classes. So you're consulting with the teachers, you're consulting with the parents, doing all of those things.
It's like, I sort of look at the school psychologist as like the bridge builder between the student, the staff, the parents, and the community too, right?
We have a little bit of opportunity to work with the community too. You know, in our district that I'm in, we have some outside resources that come in and we all kind of talk together and like, what do you know about this kid? How can we support the teachers with whatever this kid is going through? And
do you get to kind of collaborate and talk with other school psychologists, like with different districts and that such?
Yes, some. So I'm actually the president
Nice.
for, I say that lightly.
A region.
Yeah, for our Northwest Ohio region. I don't really know what my job entails yet because it's kind of a new thing. But
Cool.
so we do a little networking event every year where we all the Northwest Ohio school psychs get together, and then there's, you know, the Ohio School Psychology Association. We do a big training every year.
Yeah.
I network a little bit on Facebook with the NASP program, or the Said No School Psychologist Ever website on Facebook, and we just kind of all talk on there and get ideas from each other. There's a what's the word I'm looking for?
Like a forum or
no, like a resources.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, still, yeah.
Brain farting there. Yeah, there's a resources page, so people will pop in like their templates that they use for certain testing. They'll pop in guides that they use for how to determine if a kid is this or that, and parent resources, things to share with parents. So we kind of network that way too. And our district is lucky we have 3 of us, and so we network with each other too.
Well, you literally answered like my next question, because like in school districts that I've seen, there's maybe 1 school psychologist, and sometimes even 1 among, you know, high school, middle school, and elementary. So, but your school district has 3.
Yeah, so we have 3 in our district. We're very lucky because the average is like 1 to 1,500.
Okay, yeah, per. Wow.
Yes, and we are. Our school is only like, we have 2,500 students, I think, in our district. So, and there's 3 of us. So we're very, very fortunate to have the 3 of us. But at one point it was just 1 person doing K to 12, pre-K to 12.
Yeah. Do you still feel like the role is getting stretched beyond what it was intended for?
I think having more of us gives us more of an opportunity to connect with the kids in a different way.
Totally.
So we actually get the opportunity to do the other pieces of the job, the counseling, the just connecting with the kiddos and doing
Being
SEO.
present.
Yeah, doing SEO classes. I teach our teachers sometimes. I just taught a lesson on metacognitive teaching strategies, and you know, that's kind of a cool thing that they don't really get to see.
Yeah.
And they don't even realize they're doing some of those strategies, but they're already doing them in their classrooms.
Yeah.
And so I get to work with the teachers in that capacity as well. It's just a totally different than just test and place lifestyle. It's
that's a good thing, I think, to see that sort of changing now. I know sometimes people, I think, are confused as to like what kind of diagnoses can they get from a school psychologist.
That's a great question. None. Okay, I'm lying. We can give one. The only one that we can give is an educational autism diagnosis.
Interesting.
That is it.
And then, okay, that's really interesting to me, because I've been sort of going through at least like the Ohio Counseling Board and looking at who can diagnose autism, because I'm getting mixed information here. I'm hearing only psychologists, only clinical physicians. So school psychologists can diagnose for the education.
We can say they have an educational diagnosis of autism. So it's in the classroom that we're seeing these symptoms, and we can word it that way.
Yeah.
They can get outside diagnoses as well, but
like that, getting that diagnosis then helps the student get the services in school. Okay.
Yes.
Super. I'm so glad that I asked that.
Yeah.
So autism is really the only one, though. Like,
that's really it. So we do a behavior assessment for school age children. It's called the BASC. That gives me some insight into what the kid might struggle with, and it does give me depression and ADHD and anxiety and somatization and, you know, all those things. It gives us a rating of that, but I would never go to a parent and say your kid has ADHD.
Right.
I say this scale shows that your kid has signs or symptoms of ADHD. This would warrant a follow-up with your doctor.
Oh, okay.
So
then what would and I'm sorry to put you on the spot for this question, but
okay.
The difference between a school counselor and a school psychologist?
That's a great question. So our school counselor in our district does a lot of scheduling stuff. They're doing a little bit of the mental health too. They're supposed to, they pull kids into their office and have those mental health conversations.
Yeah.
I do a little bit of that too. In my district, there's a male and I'm the female, and then he's a male, and some kids feel better just coming to talk to a female or going to talk to a male. At the high school level, it's a lot of career counseling and looking, where are you going to go? What are you going to do? How do we help you get there? There's also a lot of that mental health stuff too. But like I said earlier, we're connected with our outside agency as well in town.
Oh,
and so
cool.
we have extra counselors within our district that are within the county community that come into our district.
That's been a really cool thing to see now is that school districts are welcoming and opening up their doors to clinical mental health therapists.
Yes.
So I think it is really neat to finally see some of these disciplines and professions kind of now collaborating and working together a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a bit of a team. And then we get together and sometimes we'll have conversations about, what do you know about the kid? How do we support this kid? What can we tell the teachers to help support them? Because, there's that confidentiality piece.
Oh, yeah.
You can't tell them everything, but they want to know, and they want to know how they can help.
Right.
So there's that fine line there too.
Yeah, I think it does make it very tricky with confidentiality in school districts because it's kind of obvious when the school psychologist is walking the kid around school or, the behaviors and the symptoms are there for everyone to sort of view.
Yeah.
So school counselors, I thought that they could diagnose learning disabilities or learning.
I would do that.
You
but
could
that's
do that
not.
too.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a diagnosis. I don't look at it that way.
Well, so things like, and you're going to name them off so much faster than me. I didn't know there were different types of dyslexia.
Yes, and I honestly.
Dyscalculia.
Oh yeah, dyscalculia, dysgraphia.
Dysgraphia, that's the one.
Yeah, and that's the writing.
Dyslexia. Yeah, so that is interesting that there's different types. So a school psychologist can diagnose those.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about that.
Yeah, right.
As being a diagnosis,
totally.
I look at my kids as like they just when we tell their parents like, okay, they have a specific learning disability, I'm like, it doesn't really mean that you're disabled. It just means that your brain is wired differently and
couldn't agree
you
more.
Learn things differently than other kids do. And it's just, unfortunately, it says disability in the label, but we don't look at you like that. And so you're right. I guess we do diagnose specific learning disabilities, intellectual disabilities.
Well,
based on certain criteria within the state of Ohio.
Because like that, in my experience, has been probably something that I think parents might not realize. Like they think that the school can just diagnose them with mental health conditions. And I'm like, no, but they can do learning disabilities, which is still important. But I mean, even just a couple of weeks ago, I met someone who was probably in their late 40s and given me signs of autism, like left and right. And I'm like, have you ever been assessed for autism? And they said to me that their preschool teacher said that they didn't have it.
Preschool, huh?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, like you've gone, 35 years of, having autism because you went by your preschool teacher's word? Oh, man.
Well, and then thinking too, well, what did we really know about autism 40 years ago?
Exactly.
35 years ago. It was different.
Yeah.
So I guess when I'm thinking diagnosis, I'm thinking medical diagnosis, not educational.
Oh, sure.
Things,
and just the mental health ones, I mean, you guys don't diagnose generalized anxiety disorder, but although you could still see it and make accommodations for that kiddo too.
Yeah. And that's where we come in with our prescription pads, if you will, if you want to call it that. It's an accommodation plan or a modification plan. If a kid has anxiety, how can we support that kid in this educational setting to help them be successful and get them through school? And
what has been a highlight and what's been a challenge?
Oh,
do you feel like you're on like an interview?
Yes. I really, 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 truly love what I do. It's different every day. It's a lot of testing, it's a lot of writing, but I get to work with the kids and I love being with the kids. I love when the kids come back and want
Yeah.
to talk to me and, hey, can you pull me out of class? And like, no, I can't pull you out of class, but if you have a study hall, I'll come grab you and we can chit chat for a minute and catch up. Just that they want to know me and they know that I want to know them.
Yeah.
And so, I still get invited. As a teacher, I got invited all the time to games, like every day. Can you come to my game? Can you do this? Can you do that? As a school psych, I'm still getting invited to games of students who I work with, and I love that. I love being a part of their lives. And
yeah, just being seen is so important. Like now that I'm working with the adults, it's like I thought at that point everyone had been seen at least once.
Yeah.
And not everyone gets to be seen.
No. The challenge, maybe probably the hardest thing is telling a parent that their child has a disability, and I put that in air quotes. Like, again, I don't look at it like that, and I'm not calling your child disabled. They don't have, they're going to still be able to do things,
right?
Hopefully, and that's a hard thing to tell a parent. Your child has a specific learning disability, and this is where it's at. And then they're emotional and they've never heard these words. But I think, like, let me give you an example of a kiddo I had. I had a meeting yesterday with a parent, and her child was diagnosed with a specific learning disability or identified as a student with a specific learning disability in 4th grade. Now he's in 6th. And this was the first meeting that the mom didn't cry because she knows that he's getting the intervention supports that he needs and he's being successful and he's making the growth that he needs to make. And, that was really hard for her to hear at first. Like, my child has a what?
Right.
But now, she's like, I see how much of a difference this has made. He has grown light years and,
it is. It's a very difficult position to be in. And I mean, I would imagine then like another challenge is for you to bear that weight sometimes. Like, do you feel like you get sort of the brunt of that?
Sometimes, yes. Another example, I had a kiddo that came to us and wasn't with us for very long, but had some behavioral concerns and hasn't been in school. And then I find out his life story, and those just break your heart. They weigh on you. You just want to take them home and love them and give them the support and the family life that they need. So that part really is like, it weighs on those things. When I see kids like that is when it really, really weighs on my heart.
And it's so difficult because, like, one, you can't share that information. Two, we don't really know what's good self-care for us in those situations. And I don't know that we expect that getting into the helping profession either.
Right.
It's like, I'm trying to help and yet I'm feeling horrible about this.
Yeah, you really have to take care of yourself too, and that's a huge piece of what we do.
Well, what's been your forms of self-care, let's say?
Well, not taking work home for me is kind of huge. I do take it home every night, just like I have it with me.
Yeah, well,
but I never do it.
It's in your head though too. I mean, I think in that form, but you mean like the paperwork and that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes I do have to do work at home. It's very rare. I try to make sure that I get my stuff done at work, but I do bring stuff home in case we have a snow day or something. And I'm like, I don't want to drive in the snow, so I'll work from home today. And so those days are kind of nice, but I think that's the one thing is just not doing the work at home.
Yeah.
I love a good bath with some candles.
There you go. Yeah.
And a glass of wine. That's really my go-to self-care, and
just to be able to decompress,
Yep.
Because it is, and I've spoken about this on a couple of like episodes of, it's very hard to shut this off, so
it is.
I don't think I can. So I sort of, it's there, but then how can I sort of channel it or mitigate it in other ways, like podcasting or, watching a good documentary on mental health or something.
The other thing is reading. I read a ton, and I don't read books typically that are mental health based. I read
something
stuff
that
I enjoy, and that kind of really takes you out of the world that you're living in. And I've always been a reader, so
I often hear travel too. Is a big one.
And we do a lot of that in our family as well. So
fantastic.
It's hard sometimes to get away, but we make time for that. And relax.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
What would be word advice for someone wanting to enter the field of school psychology today?
That's a great question. I always tell my students, I also work at a local college in our town, and I have students who are going to be teachers. And so a lot of them know that I'm a school psychologist by trade. And I always tell them, like, if you want to do this job, I strongly encourage you come in and observe for a day. Shadow a person. If you know somebody, you're more than welcome to come and shadow with me. I've had a few kids take me up on that, and some have been like, yeah, this, I could see myself doing this. More than being in the classroom.
Right. Have you had any of them be like, this is not for me?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet, but I've only had, I have 3 of them that have come so far to see, and all of them are like, I could see myself doing this after I teach a couple years. And I think that's huge for being a school psych too, is having that educational background in the classroom so that you really know how to help those teachers, because, some of us are really young in this world and they've never been a teacher. So it's hard for teachers who have been in the business forever to take advice from a kiddo who's 24.
Sure.
When they've been teaching for 32 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
totally like a different role though.
It is.
In that sense. And I mean, like I can't imagine what it's like being a first day teacher, because like as a student, because like from a student, like you think that like you're scared and that your teacher is confident and has their S together, and they're just as scared too, I'd imagine.
I remember my very first day of teaching. It was a 4th grade classroom. I was in a city I didn't know, working with teachers I had just met, and when the kids walked in that door, I was just like, took my deep breath and let it out. And I said, man, you guys are probably less nervous than I am to be here today.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is what makes the kids respect you, is being vulnerable with them. And they tend to feel the way you're feeling, and they have empathy. They don't realize it yet, but they feed off of you.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Well, and
so as scary as it is, but letting them know, like, this is hard for me.
Yeah. Well, and just that energy piece. Like, I think students know when you're having a bad day, just as much as you pick up on, the adults that might be having a moment, let's say.
We talk about that too when we have kids come in, and they'll say things like, my teacher was really rude to me. And then we're like, okay, but
they're human.
They are human and they make mistakes too. Are teachers allowed to have bad days? Yeah, sure. They are.
Yeah.
And what does that look like sometimes? And sometimes they do go back and apologize. And I think that's one of the things also with working with kids, is just having the capacity to apologize to your kids and make mistakes and own them.
Oh, totally.
Then they tend to respect you more.
Well,
in that sense.
And also model that behavior, I'll tell you, it's I don't know what's harder to do, give a presentation in front of 100 adults or 12 fifth graders. Well, I would say maybe, I mean, like middle school, like it's just so funny because like I would go in, give them a presentation, and then I'm expecting this like applause or questions, and it's ghostly quiet.
Yep.
So hard to deal with in that way.
Yeah. With the kids, the quiet?
Yeah. It's like,
we've done some presentations with adults that are very quiet too, and you're like,
well, I find
okay.
I find, and hopefully this doesn't offend really anyone. I genuinely mean this, but I find that teachers are not the best audience.
Teachers will tell you they are not the best audience.
Yeah.
They will tell you that. I don't think they're going to be offended. I hope not.
Well, yeah, but do you feel like that's true?
Yes, absolutely. We are the worst students. Absolutely. And I'm not even a teacher anymore, but we are the worst students. When we get into these worlds where we get an opportunity to do the learning, we want to chit chat about the learning, and we want to talk to each other. And we are the students who are talking to each other while the teacher's talking. Constantly. And it's like, we are the worst students.
That's so interesting, right?
Educators in general, I think, are.
Yeah, definitely. You don't have to come up with any, but did you have any questions for me or anything?
Have you worked in any schools?
I have, yeah. I've worked in a couple of school districts. Probably my favorite one was I did 3 years as a new position as a behavioral coach.
Oh, cool! Yeah,
that was cool.
We need more of those.
Much so. I was really sad to see like the funding ending for
Mhm.
that. I think it was challenging because the position was kind of made up on the
Mhm.
fly.
Yep.
So kind of it did take me, I'd say, a good year to sort of build that rapport.
Yep.
But then sort out like where do I need to be and when is that most useful?
Mhm.
So they kept trying to kind of tie me down to a schedule,
Yep.
I found. And I really had to fight that. And I finally kind of came up with this, analogy of like, I'm like an ambulance.
Mhm.
I'm here in the building, but I'm not on a schedule
Right.
because when that crisis happens, you need me there then.
Right.
So I can't be in two places at once. So
Makes sense.
yeah. And that was helpful, I think, for them to sort of understand like where I was coming from.
Mhm.
Like if you give me a schedule like your other staff, then you're not going to have that person floating around for
Right.
when the crisis happens.
Yeah.
So, but that was, yeah.
So what did you do in the meantime? Because I think I get that question a lot too. Like,
Right.
what are you doing when you're not
Yeah.
writing reports or testing?
Yeah. Like, looking back on it, I can see the perception
Mhm.
of, the student's just walking around the building. Yeah, but that person is checking for a crisis to come up.
Mhm.
Like they're going to be there so you can do what you were there to do.
Mhm.
And that person's going to take over that. So,
Right.
I mean, I was doing that. I would come up with, you mentioned earlier, like teaching classes
Yep.
on mental health. That was really fun.
Mhm.
And then within the last couple of years, sort of suicide prevention has been a
Mhm.
big thing. So I just volunteered for that role to get trained on that.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
that was good. And then the last 2 years, I offered a confidential mental health session with the staff,
Okay.
one-on-one,
Yep.
if they wanted it.
Mhm.
And it was really, really cool, I think, to sit with a teacher during their lunch break because
Yep.
that's the only time that they have, and
Absolutely.
and just be there to listen to what their mental health needs
Mhm.
were, even outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. We actually, when I was an intern, the two school psychs that I was interning with, if we had so many snow days, we would work from home or whatever the case may be, and we'd have to log so many hours. And one of our school psychs sent out an email like, if you need to have or you have any mental health concerns, reach out to me and I can help
Sure.
you or we can talk through those. And she did have a couple people bite, and I think that's huge too because
It was.
again, it goes back to that self-care. You need to take care of yourself before you can take care of anyone else. Love yourself before you can love anyone else too. And I spent a whole day at a mental health wellness symposium today and learned a lot. Although those were things,
Yeah.
take care of you. You're on an airplane. You got to put your air mask on before you can help the kid next to you or the person next to you, or you're not going to be able to help them, period.
Yeah.
So if you have that mindset, then
No, absolutely.
Kids will grow.
Yeah. Well, and you will too, and I think that's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
You got it. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Well, that's a wrap for this episode of The Wellness Project. I hope today's conversation gave you something to think about, something to feel, or maybe even something to change. If you found value in this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share, or leave a review. It helps more people join the conversation. And if you have thoughts, questions, or a topic you'd love to hear about, go ahead and reach out. It's thewellnessprojectllc@gmail.com. Until next time, take care of yourself, stay curious, and keep growing. This is Wilson signing off. See you in the next one. This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for therapy. If you are experiencing mental distress, please seek professional help.